I think COVID is, in the end, it's a good lesson for all of us. Because what you think is sometimes set can be taken away from you in a heartbeat, right? Would you like to own a bar or restaurant in California right now? Would you like to own a bar or restaurant right now? I'm grateful to be in a business that was ready for this, you know? And I'm grateful that we bet on technology. I'm grateful that we changed our name and became Evolve Financial, because the main reason behind it is that we wanted to be different. We're an innovator. The name Evolve it implies innovation, change, you know, going along with the times. And you know, when we got together last summer, it was really about a year ago when our executive council came together, and we made a decision that we were going to move in this direction. And guess what? It was the right thing, because now here we're sitting here with, you know, in this COVID world, and we're ready for it, right? And the challenge is now recognizing the opportunity in this moment versus looking at the misfortune in this moment, you know? And that's why your daily routine and what you think about and what you focus on every day, you know, if, like I've been talking a lot about this. And again, the only reason I always talk about this is because I struggle with this kind of stuff. I remember Simon Sinek said, you know, if you wake up in the morning and the first thing you do is you have like a drink, you know, you're probably addicted to alcohol. Would you agree with that, right? He said, but if the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning is you reach for your phone, you're probably addicted to that. And as soon as that first click, I don't know if any of you wake up at like 3 o'clock in the morning, maybe you're getting older, you have to use the restroom, and you grab your phone on the way to use the bathroom. I mean, I don't know if that's you, that's me, right? And all of a sudden, you start bombarding your life with the most negative stuff in the world, right? About COVID. I mean, you're convinced you're going to die in your sleep that night, right? I mean, by the time you with some of this stuff, and not minimizing whether that it's just the way that it is, right? And then all of a sudden, you're no longer focused on your goals. All of a sudden, you've been up for a half an hour, and 27 minutes of that has been consuming what your friends did on Facebook last night, what's going on Instagram, a whole bunch of negativity about the election, whatever the hell you want to find. And then by the time you put your foot down and you've gotten your first cup of coffee, there's a lot of bad stuff that you're fighting through, right? And before you know it, do you think you're going to feel like calling anybody? You're going to feel like being inspired and going to change? No, you're thinking that I hope I'm alive at the end of this year, right? And so I guess right now, the only reason I'm bringing this up is like, we've got to be a voice of reason. We've got to be smart. Everybody's being smart tonight. We're all socially distancing, but we can still run our business, right? And what's great about today versus like in the past is when you look at how much easier our business is. Okay, now think about this, okay? If I used to bring in Shantae in the past, no matter what, her success was going to come down to her ability to bring people to Oakbrook. That's just the way the business was. And if she didn't have the ability to convince people to come to Oakbrook, she's probably not going to be successful in this business, right? And today, even if you took away the barrier of Oakbrook, or that you still got to, in the end, I don't care, you recruit a person, you get the person going, in the end, you got to get in front of people, right? And you still have to be able to get somebody to physically go somewhere and meet with you. True or false? Yep. And unless you could find, I don't care how many people you recruit, Patrick, if you couldn't find somebody that could get you in front of people, whether at the office or at some location somewhere, they're not going to make it. Right? Now, they don't even have to go anywhere. We just have to get somebody to listen to us online. They just have to like turn on their freaking phone and say hello. And that's not an exaggeration. We used to sell the dream about the internet. We used to say, oh man, it's the Jetsons, if you even know what the hell cartoon I'm talking about. The Jetsons was a future-based cartoon. You may have heard of it. My kids can't even watch those cartoons because they're not stimulated enough because it's not Pixar. You know, they're like, Dad, that's a two-dimensional cartoon. That's boring. Okay, but that's the Jetsons. Like, we said, pretend like we could see people on a phone and talk to them in another part of the world, right? And so, like, here we are, our life, like, transforms, like, right underneath us. And most of us, not because there's a lack of intelligence, just a lack of comprehension as to what the hell has already happened. And to be able to even, like, start to grasp that we went from, we have, like, 0 restrictions versus, like, the most amount of restrictions than we ever think. Because all of our restrictions in this room come from the past. Because all we know is brick and mortar. All we know is seeing people live. All we know is you drive to somebody's freaking house. I mean, we went to the point where you had to drive to people's houses just to make sure we could see the most amount of people possible. That was our whole business, yes or no, right? So what I'm getting at is now, when we've removed the driving, we've removed all the barriers, we've removed all the worry about having to figure out what the advertising is. We don't have to get anything approved because it's all approved. What I mean by that, it's all online. I'm talking about if you're using the platforms, of course, you're going to get stuff approved. So it's all there, right? And yet, in our minds, we have more limitations than in the past when we actually have less restrictions. It's crazy, but it's true. Now, a restaurant can't say that. You can't, like, try to, like, positive talk. You're full of crap if you say that a restaurant business is better now than it was before. It's a lot worse to be. Now, I wouldn't mind being Uber Eats, though. Right. I wouldn't mind being DoorDash. They figured out how to take advantage of this moment, right? And so, look, I guess all I'm saying is at the end of it, like, we're either going to sit around. There's no, like, secret to what the hell we got to do. It's like Zoom is now about an appointment. So the way I look at it is this. If I bring in Shantae and she can't get somebody on a Zoom, there's no lower barrier to entry than that. There is still some credibility involved in being able to get somebody to drive somewhere. But it is a much lower barrier to entry to be able to just get a person in. So when I'm saying that it's a true internet business, the reason I brought up the pajamas recruit earlier, we used to say the pajama recruit, but it really wasn't like that. Because you still had to go do some stuff. Today, you can literally do it all online. True or false? You can. There's no, like, Patrick and I, the other day, we were going through something. We were going through some reconciling some things, and it came up that there was an application that some things got. So we said, okay, just remove this person from the application, put this person on the application. Right on the phone, and we were done with it. $100,000 application, right? Man, in the past, the amount of paperwork we have to drive, that's a 17-hour problem that we had in the past. Literally. I remember me and a guy named Terry Allen. Some of you guys remember Terry Allen. I remember me and Terry Allen driving applications to Cedar Rapids, Iowa, before they closed so that I could win the China trip. So because I told my dad I was going to take him to Beijing, right? And I did that, right? But again, we can go through all that. I don't need to tell all the war stories and stay up till midnight, okay? The point being is I just think we got to change our mind. And I'm just, every morning, I'm just trying to say, man, like, instead of focusing on COVID, like I did so well, COVID expert. You want to know something negative about it? I can tell you, okay? But then I decided to be an expert on winning in WFG about like a month and a half ago. I just decided, I'm going to change my routine. I'm going to change. Again, doesn't mean because I did it for a month, like all of a sudden I got it all figured. No, but what I'm getting at is it's like we have a lot of extra time on our hands. You could choose to fill. What do you want to put into your brain right now? For me, another release for me is stand up from Netflix. Because it makes me laugh. I got to laugh. I put on Netflix. I just put on something because I want to put on some negativity in my background. Because I want to hear it. Because then I found out my body's actually addicted to it, to the chemicals. Yeah, your body's actually addicted to your past. Okay? So many different stuff you learn. And it's not good or bad, good and bad, right? And so, like, in the morning now when I wake up, my body's actually saying, Angelo, where the hell is my negativity at? And it's pissed. And I'll tell you what, I lost the battle yesterday morning. Lost the battle. I just said, screw you, I'm going on Twitter. I went on Twitter for like 30 minutes. I was just so angry when I got off of it. I was like, yes, man, I am really angry right now. But see, I caught myself being aware of it. is half the battle. Tony's on my text chain. He knows all about my anger text, right? Right. So to poor Tony, we have a text with some of my cousins. It's been going for like 5 years. This text, I think, and it's just started with complaining about the Bears games on Sundays, and it has now turned into the longest text chain ever, right? But the bottom line is that I'm talking about this is because we are sitting at home, and every day we have to choose what we focus on, okay? And all I'm saying to you guys is if we can focus on these things here, these numbers here that are online that you can see hopefully on the screen, they can see it, right? And we can focus on that, connecting, right? We know that every month, we know the magic number is 10 people every single month, getting them to follow up with us on the Zoom. We know that if we can get the 10 people to follow up with us, we know that we can get the 1, 2, 3 result. And then eventually we can start to flow through the system, right? And we recognize that in our business, right, on this platform, we got that checklist, right? We've got this great support system, this wonderful technology, everything we talked about tonight. Don't need to spend any more time on that. That great checklist that Todd talked about. But that checklist isn't that exciting if you haven't had anyone go through it, right? But if you get somebody on and you're like, man, that fast start appointment used to take 3 hours, and now I just send them a damn checklist and they do all the work. Well, that doesn't frustrate me as much as like it would have, because now if the person quits, I'm like, well, that's their problem, right? But in the past, everything was manual labor. There was no like tractor to do any of the work. The internet is like a tractor. It was like, okay, we go to convention and, the guy at the convention would stand up in front. You guys know what I'm talking about. They'd say, okay, get your soil tiller out, get your chopping, get your axe out. All right, so here's the point of the convention. There's a forest. Go chop down every freaking tree in the forest. And guess what? You only got this axe. And you leave the convention like, well, no crap. I just flew across the country to figure out that I got to bust my rear end. I already knew that, right? I'm not saying that was bad. It's just a different model. Nowadays, because of the internet, I can plow through that information. I can get through it so much faster. That's just the difference. But I'm still stuck in my 1 or 2 mindset, 3 mindset. Think about all the people that never could come to the office over the years. Right. Could you even put a number on how many people quit because they couldn't come to the office? And you told them the only way they can win is if they come to the office. And you didn't tell them that because you were an idiot. You told them that because that was the only way to win. It's not like you did anything wrong. And now you're going to try to compare that to saying, all right, here's what you got to do. Go in your pocket, reach in, click on Zoom, look at the screen, listen. Is that a little different than going to Oak Brook? And it sounds absurd, but like, do you get fired? Like, do you wake up thinking about how much faster it is? Or are you like, hey, this is how many new infections we had last night. I just heard Minnesota's neighbor just died the other day. Now you hear about that and you're like, oh, well, let me tell you about this. I got another COVID story, right? And before you know it, by 11 o'clock, the only thing you talked about is death and despair. Instead of, this thing's 100 times better than it was before. Which is, somebody's having that conversation. You know how I know that? Because look at the numbers of the people that are growing in the company, right? The company's growing, right? And so, what we say is that, look, if you do the 1, 2, and the 3, 1 member, 2 solutions, 3,000 points, that's going to come from 10 follow-ups. If you do the 10 Zoom follow-ups, then we're going to promote you to an associate promotion, right? And then if you go to the second step, which is what we call the elite performer, an elite performer, instead of doing 1, 2, 3 in a month, they're doing 12 solutions in 3 months. So that's 1 solution a week, 15,000 points total. That's going to give you a senior associate contract. We brought back that promotion. Now, we never used senior agent, senior associate, senior agent. It's also another name for it. We're going to pay you at a 45% contract just by going out there and doing 12 and 15,000. Folks, marketing director is 40,000 in 3 months, and you only get 5% more. This is like 1/3 of the marketing director requirement and almost the same contract. It's not the exact same. Marketing director is still better. But if you become an elite performer, now you find yourself in a situation where you can become a senior associate at a 45% contract. So that's what we're striving for. That's what we're going for. That's what we want everybody to shoot for. All right. And then the last thing I wanted to go over tonight is, all of the events that we have coming up, right? We have our weekly events here every Tuesday and Thursday. We got our monthly events. We're going to do our next Green Carpet Day will be Tuesday, August 25th. So someone double check that date. I think it's Tuesday, is it August 25th? It'll be just like tonight, except we won't have any technical problems, all right? And we're hoping to have a similar message. We're going to talk through some of the good things that are going on in our business. And we want you to think about all the people that you want to showcase our business to. That'll be our green carpet. And then we're going to have some quarterly events in the fall. We're going to wait to see how COVID goes, but we're going to have some events that are coming up in the fall. And then, of course, we've got some events coming up right now. Next week, July 23rd, we've moved the venue. We're going to say it's going to be over at the Village Links Restaurant, Reserve 22. It's going to be next Thursday, July 23rd at 6:30 p.m. This is going to be for all of the people that are our elite performers and all the people that hit the 10 Zooms and the 1, 2, 3 in the month of June. And I just want to recognize those people tonight. Some of you are online, some of you are here. But here are the people that have re-qualified for elite performer, okay? Or they've qualified for the Target 1, 2, 3, or they did 10 Zooms in the month of June. We're going to get together next Thursday evening at 6:30 over at the Village. We're going to get the information out tomorrow on that. But we're going to constantly be celebrating those of you that are hitting these standards every single month, right? So let's I want to recognize our re-qualifier, and let's give a clap here, those of you in the office, and this is the last thing. Mario and Elvi Aldana, let's give them a big hand. Tony DeMille, let's give him a big hand. Mario Sonardi, Brandon Tom Sonardi, Patrick Callahan, Todd Kemp, Anthony Gurrieri, Frank Nunez, Angelo Gurrieri. We got Wade Zhang, also qualified. Phil and Lisa qualified under the 10 Zooms, is that right? Excuse me, the 1, 2, 3. And we have a brand new elite performer, Joanne the lady, also qualified. So let's give a big hand to all of those. We're going to have a nice celebration coming up next week with all of you. So that is going to be awesome, what we have coming up. Look, in the end, despite all, we've all been through a lot together. I think if we really stop and think about this moment, we really are lucky people, okay? Is there anywhere else in the world you'd rather be living? I know some people are criticizing our country. I'm not a fan of that. I think we live in the best country in the world. We got problems, but we got a lot of sins, okay? We did a lot of things wrong. We live in a pretty damn good country in terms of opportunity, right? I don't know too many other places where you could do what we could do here in America, right? And we could write our own paycheck in this country. And, despite all the crazy stuff that's going on, when I started this business back 25 years ago, one of the things that we set out to do was we wanted to build an organization where the unifying language was success. The unifying thing didn't matter where you come from. We have a very diverse group here live and across the country. I mean, we really have an organization that looks like the real world, right? And we've always been that way. And the one thing I know is that in a time of chaos, the people that are certain are the ones that take advantage of the moment, right? Crisis is a moment where we can kind of show everybody out there that we're the voice of reason, right? And there's nothing about COVID and there's nothing about what's going on that we're restricted by except by our mindset. And that's it. And I just want to remind you about that. There's no reason you can't be successful this year and double your income and still be totally safe and keep your family safe. Because at the end of the day, anybody that tells you they know what the hell's going to come next is full of it. Nobody knows. That's what's crazy about this whole thing. Nobody really, really knows what comes next. But I know this, we have to rethink our careers. We have to rethink the way everything has been done. And we're fortunate that we have each other. Could you imagine trying to be some solo business owner on the corner right now, not having a community like this to collaborate, trying to figure it out? That's why so many people, I hate to say, I hate to talk about suicide, but the suicide rate is high. I'm friends with the new sheriff in DuPage County. He's a friend of mine. We talk from time to time. He said the stuff they're seeing in DuPage County, the overdoses, the child abuse, there's just horrible things that are happening because of just the conditions that people being home and all the bad that comes with it, right? And I say, like, look, economics is the one thing that rises up everybody, right? In America, this is the one place where it doesn't matter. The internet doesn't give a crap what nationality you are. The internet doesn't give a crap what age you are. You know what is awesome about online? I actually think some of the organizations that are nichey, you know what I'm talking about, that everybody looks like a certain thing in the organization, if they utilize technology the right way, they can eliminate that problem. Because online, you could create a completely different company than being forced. It's the live factor that kills some of the niche groups. And now imagine those niche groups can eliminate the live factor, which they think has been a strength, but is also continuing to perpetuate the niche, whatever the niche is, by the way. I mean, some of you are going to certain people. I'm just talking about in general. If you're younger, online, it doesn't matter. If you're older, online, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what your ethnicity is online. None of it matters. I mean, this is really the great equalizer. And we're going to look back 5 years from now and say, why were we so damn slow in figuring it out? Why did it take us like a year when we had a 2-year head start? Because I promise you some millennials going to come in. I got this millennial in our team. He's part of Robert's team. This guy's 20 years old and 19 years old. He just got, his green jacket. And I'm not saying, and it's a different model on how they run it, but within our team, I'm fortunate enough to override this guy. He guy's 19 years old. He got his green jacket. Well, do you think he did it because he's doing it the brick and mortar way? You think he's running the old BPM illegally behind Pritzker's back? That's not what he's doing. He's just a millennial who doesn't even know any different on technology. And if he's running 100 appointments a week and you're sitting around figuring out how to turn on Zoom still, that dude's going to eat your lunch. Just like Amazon wiped out Barnes & Noble. Just like Uber, some couple of apps wiped out these freaking, what are those things called inside the meters? The medallions. The industry is going to get wiped like that. What's good all these brick and mortar banks sitting around, hundreds of millions of dollars in assets, just sitting around empty every day? How long are they going to be before they figure it out? All of a sudden, we got the secret weapon, and we got the tools. And, as I said the other day, and I'll end with this, Transamerica is an imperfect company, but they bet the entire, when they said all in, they did all in on technology. And so, if nothing else, to be able to be an IAR, a securities rep, and an insurance rep across state lines is one thing. That's pretty damn hard to find. But being able to collect compensation across state lines and build an agency across state lines in those 3 areas, all online, I don't know any company. I don't even know one out there. Maybe if you want to say Primerica, maybe. Maybe because they do have an IAR now. Okay? They do, but it's not what we have. Okay? So my point is that we really, if there's one silver lining in this crap cloud, is that the one thing we did bet on, it is coming through. Now is it realizing that the winnings are there in the pot? We bet it, we won it. The winnings are in the pot. All we got to do now is just pull it out of the pot. But if we just sit around and still keep analyzing, did I really win? Did I really? Yeah, you did. We bet on the right thing. Now we just have to go grab it. Thank you. Have a good night. And despite all that, we only win.